Welcome! In this video, we're going to be exploring the history of Israel. So the history of this little piece of land right here. Now, the very first reference outside of the Bible to Israel is found in Egypt on this monument before us here, which is called the Maneptos Stella, which was made in about 1200 BC. And it is upon this very important monument that we, for the first time, see the word Israel outside the Bible. And as you can see, it is written in Egyptian hieroglyphics. The Maneptos Stella records the military victories of Pharaoh Meneptah. And at the very end of the stela, Meneptah tells us about all of his victories in the Levant, in which he destroys many cities. The stela reads, quote, "Carried off is Ashkelon, seized upon is Giza, Edom is made non-existent. Israel is laid waste, its seed is no more," end quote. And of course, the irony is here that our very first archaeological reference to Israel tells us that they've been completely destroyed. Of course, this is not the case. Pharaoh Meneptah is exaggerating. Rather, the Maneptos Stella is our very first of many archaeological references to Israel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button as we continue to analyze the archaeology of Israel in future videos. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that like button and leave me a comment to which I will respond. Let's make that YouTube algorithm happy, everyone. Okay, so the Maneptos Stella is great, but it doesn't really tell us what's happening in Israel in 1200 BC. For that information, we need to turn to the Bible, which tells us that at this time, Israel is not united, but is rather broken into 12 tribes, known as the 12 tribes of Israel. The Bible presents this time as being very tumultuous, but all of this changes in about the year 1000, when Israel gets its first king, and we now have a united monarchy. The very first king of Israel is a man by the name of Saul, and Saul unites the 12 tribes into a united entity, so he reigns over a united kingdom. But Saul is not a very popular king and is replaced by a man in his own court, none other than the most famous king of Israel, King David, from whom all future kings of Israel are descended. After King David, his son, King Solomon, then takes the throne. And King Solomon is a very important figure because he constructs the very first temple in Jerusalem. But of course, building temples and palaces doesn't come cheap. In order to fund these buildings, Solomon imposed high taxes and forced labor upon the people of Israel. Therefore, Solomon was hated by his own people, and this hatred is especially prominent in the north of the country. Now, all of this comes to a head when Solomon's son Rehoboam takes the throne. When he's on the throne, the north of the country gives Rehoboam an ultimatum, saying, quote, "Your father made our yoke heavy. Now, therefore, lighten the hard service of your father and his heavy yoke that he placed on us, and we will serve you," end quote. Now, in response to this very reasonable request from the north, Rehoboam responds in a terrible way, saying, quote, "My little finger is thicker than my father's loins," end quote. Which has to be the silliest thing you could possibly say to an angry mob. To put it in today's language, Rehoboam is basically saying, "You think my father was harsh? Just wait to see what I do." In response to this, the north of Israel decides to no longer be ruled over by Rehoboam and thus rejects the Davidic king. They say, quote, "What share do we have in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel, look now to your own house, O David," end quote. This now takes us to the next period of Israel's history, which begins in 930 BC, which is the divided monarchy. This is when Israel splits into two. We now have two separate kingdoms. In the north, we have Israel, and in the south, we have Judah. Judah's first king is Rehoboam, and thus Judah retains the Davidic monarch, while the first king of Israel is a man by the name of Jeroboam. Now, Israel is made up of the 10 northern tribes, while Judah is made up of the 2 southern tribes, Judah and Benjamin. In our next video, we're going to be exploring the most important event in the kingdom of Israel's history, and that is the sin of Jeroboam. So if that sounds interesting to you, and if you've enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, leave me a comment to which I will respond. I will respond to all comments, and subscribe. Doing all these things really does keep the channel alive. And for those eager for more, for my patrons only, there's going to be an additional part to this video in which we explore the documentary hypothesis, which is basically trying to answer the question, who wrote the Bible? Of course, before modern scholarship, the answer was Moses. But the documentary hypothesis argues that the Bible is made up of 4 separate texts, J, E, D, and P, which were all stitched together into the Bible we know today. I personally don't believe everything in the documentary hypothesis, but what I can't deny is that it is fascinating. So if you do decide to become a patron in this video, what we're going to be doing is breaking down the J and the E source. So that is the Elohist and the Yahwist. And we're really going to be digging deep into the J source. And then the plan is that at the end of the next video, we're going to analyze the E source. And this is going to be exclusive to patrons. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you become a patron today. And not only are you going to get access to all of this information on the documentary hypothesis, but you're also going to receive all my full videos in which I break down the history behind Daniel 11. There are more than 40 videos there which are exclusive to patrons. So it'd be great if you could become a patron today and get access to all of this great exclusive content. Patrons really do keep this channel alive, so please consider signing up today. To become a patron, you just need to click the link in the description below. But again, if you've made it this far and you don't want to become a patron, just make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. Doing these things make a huge difference. Thanks so much for watching until the end, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.